in Indiana, where it's been really interesting when it comes to same-sex marriage. So we had the Freedom Indiana movement. This came into really, big, prominent, limelight kind of spectacle last year because of HJR 6 and then HJR 3, right. And then now voters can't even vote on it until 2016. So that's the legislation aspect of it in one sense. Then there's 3 cases that get placed all together, and then there's a federal judge that strikes down the gay marriage ban, and then a day later or 3 days later there's a stay in it. But in the meantime, hundreds of same-sex couples across the state get married. I believe like 27 here in Tippecanoe County. And then they have a stay. And then the final chunk of this is that all of a sudden we get a notice from the governor's office and their marriages don't count. So it's been a really topsy-turvy ride. Could you talk a little bit about, I guess, the confusion that has caused, in the same-sex community, in the LGBTQ community, and also outside of it,
Sure. It has been a very up and down roller coaster ride, if you will, for marriage equality. Right. We had Freedom Indiana come in and work with so many different groups with us, HJR 6, HJR 3. They kind of felt a success when we defeated the constitutional amendment, right. And pushed it back to 2016. Mm-hmm. Again, just the whole thinking that marriage equality is just a civil liberty, right. Not something that people should be voting on. So we were very excited. We saw the judge overturn the marriage ban. Yeah. We saw people immediately lining up. Very fortunate to see Marion County being prepared for this, and in anticipation already had the forms updated, staying open late. Here in Tippecanoe County, it took till the following day. Right. But we had couples immediately head in there to start lining up, people calling, when can they come in and get and apply for their marriage licenses. So it was a great 3 days. Right. It was great to see those people come in, many of them that had been in committed relationships, up to 32 years. Jeez. I'd heard one couple had been together when they were finally able to legally be married. Mm-hmm. It was interesting listening to all of the stories. Sarah Snowberger is an attorney here in town, and she was appointed by one of the judges to come in and, I don't know the official terms, but marry all of these couples. Mm-hmm. And just in talking with her and seeing her expression in some of the pictures posted on Facebook, you could just see the joy, sure. Not only in the couple's face to finally be recognized as a legitimate couple to the state of Indiana, mm-hmm. Because in their mind, their families, their friends, they've been a couple, right. They've been a married couple for years, and then to hear Sarah just see the expression on their faces, and she could just feel the love, and the same thing of all the people that were there around the courthouse helping and get people through the lines and right. Get them filled out. Mm-hmm. They said it was just overwhelming just to feel the love. And like I said, these people have been in committed relationships for years, and now to finally have that recognition. I don't think that the stay that happened 3 days later was necessarily unexpected. Sure. You always have hope. Right. You always want to hope that it's not going to happen, but I think we've expected it. We've seen that in every other state that it's come right. through. Kind of right now, what we're hoping for is that we'll hear the U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder come in and say that even though the state is not recognizing your marriages, we will. Okay. We've seen that happen in Michigan. We've seen that happen in
something from the federal level coming down. Okay.
So that still doesn't help where we're at in Indiana.
Sure. I mean, they had, and you were talking about these couples, and they kind of had the rug swept out from under them.
They did. All of a sudden, they're equal. Their relationship is on the same level as every other relationship in the state. And then 3 days later, the governor says,
well, that's really interesting.
You're not. It's interesting. It's difficult.
It is.
It's really sad because, we've worked so hard. Again, it all goes back to equality. Right. Everyone is on the same level. Treat everyone with the same level that everyone is deserving with their civil liberties. And all of a sudden, everything that we felt like we had progressed towards, we, you know, one step forward, two steps back. So now we just kind of wait for it to play out in this next set of appeals, and we're hopeful with the trends that we've been seeing. All of the judges have been weighing in favor of marriage equality. So I saw this case has been combined with Wisconsin. Yeah. And we've been expedited. I think all of the paperwork and some other legal terms.
Sure, but I mean, there is one marriage that the state of Indiana has decided to recognize, and that's Amy Sandler and her wife. I forget exactly where they're from.
Southern Indiana.
I think they're northern actually.
Okay, are they? Okay.
Yeah,
but one of them has.
But one of them has terminal cancer, but that marriage is recognized.
Right.
And so, I mean, I guess, you know, maybe this isn't a question, but more of just an observation. Does it need to come to that point where one of the, you know, members in a relationship, or you know, half the couple is about to die, or you know, has a terminal medical condition, for the state to recognize? I mean, it perturbs me.
Yeah, it's really a disturbing fact. I mean, they'll recognize this marriage, but what about all of those other marriages where there are other underlying issues, or not?
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for that couple.
Right.
They absolutely deserve it.
Absolutely.
But it's like, come on, Indiana, let's you know, let's keep moving this forward.
Sure. I mean, you know, kind of continuing along the line of this, I mean, what kind of, I guess, message, or what does it say really when someone who's been waiting for this their entire lives, and like you said, there's couples in this county who've been together for 32 years. I remember a couple of my reporters that were at the courthouse when this happened. They said they ran into a couple that's been together for, you know, a couple decades. They brought their kids to the courthouse, and you know, what does it say though when you see this happening and people have been waiting for this their entire lives, and all of a sudden it's almost like they're playing a game almost with the state, where it's like one day you have it and the next day you don't, and then one day you have it and the next day you don't. But it's like someone's messing with their life in a sense.
In essence, they are. You know, I think for the adults, we understand it's, you know, we just have to go through this legal process. We don't have to like it.
Sure.
But we've seen it work this way in other states and work through. I think what's hard is on the kids. Okay. You know, the kids hear the message, you know, whether they're 7 or whether they're 15 or 21 or 30, it's like, you know, it's difficult on them. You're saying that my parents aren't recognized. You're saying that my family is not as good as the family next door with a heterosexual couple. You know, it sends a message out there that we're not welcoming, that everyone's not equal here. And you know, they always talk about wanting to keep the younger generations here in the state. Right. You're sending a message to those kids of LGBTQ families that,
and their friends.
Yeah, and their friends, and that the state isn't welcoming, that we're not all treated equal. Yeah.
Do you have any maybe examples of people, and I guess the confusion and I guess the sadness they must be feeling from Pride Lafayette?
Yeah, just a couple of different ones. You know, there was do you want names?
Sure.
Okay. And we had a couple, Regina and Lori, that went in to apply for their marriage license. They were denied, said that the court wasn't ready, so they, you know, went back to work and then found out later. And then again, you know, they have jobs. Right. You know, they had to have their coworkers help cover for them so that they could get down there and actually, you know, have the ceremony and be legally recognized. So, you know, on one front, it's like, you know, it's disheartening that the county wasn't ready and denied them. But on the other count, it's like their coworkers made it happen. You know, their coworkers recognized the importance of this decision. But then again, 3 days later, they're back to what does this mean for us? You know, within their hearts, you know, they're still married. Right. You know, another couple, they brought their kids down to be a part of the ceremony. They've been together for almost 2 decades. You know, same thing. Their kids are excited. You know, in their minds, they've been married. They get the paperwork, and then now they're not. Yeah, I think that we saw the first couple that was married. Yes. Dan and his partner.
Right.
It's exciting to be able to finally to put those people out there that these are members of the LGBT community, LGBTQ community, and just that we're humans. You know, we want to protect our loved ones just like everyone else does. Facebook, it was so great to see all of the allies commenting on their support, willing to call the Attorney General, willing to call the governor and say, don't file a stay. Let these people deserve and enjoy all of the same rights that we've always had.
Right.
So that was amazing to hear all of the allies come out in support and who are willing to step up and make those contacts.
Sure.
And who are willing to even call our county clerk here, and I know they were trying to organize a sit-in, you know, peaceful demonstration that marriage equality, that's what it's about.
Yeah, we actually got the video of the county clerk actually announcing this. Yeah, and it was taken with a phone.
Oh wow!
It was yeah, but I mean, it was a really, you could hear the cheers as soon as she said it. It was, you know, kind of like a celebration. But kind of in a different direction now. Whenever I hear this argument, actually, the person that sat in your seat, Andrew Crow, I had the chance to talk to him on campus when he was here last year, and you know, we were talking about how marriage equality and same-sex marriage are fiscally beneficial to the state, or whatever, you know. And with Freedom Indiana, there was always the second discussion, and it was pushed really hard, and it was like, okay, this is fiscally beneficial to the state, and that fiscal word kept getting played around. It's good for business, this and that.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. But it seems like, why do we need to have this second kind of, you know, instead of just being, this is our civil liberties kind of thing, and just sticking with that, why does there always need to be the second set of argument?
I guess I don't know that I have a good answer for that. I think myself being a public servant, I understand the need to justify the dollars for it.
Sure.
I think a lot of it is not necessarily, I think it's trying to demonstrate to the state the dollars that they're losing with couples going out of state. My wife and I went out of state to get married. And I actually took the time to sit down and figure out, you know, the tickets, the hotel, the car rental, everything that went into our small ceremony. My parents driving to California and putting them up, you know, to be a part of that. And those are dollars that we made it a point that we spent outside of the state of Indiana.
So it's an argument you can win, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an argument that we could have hired a caterer here. It's an argument that we could have rented out a church here. That we could have had a larger wedding with all of our friends and family here, you know, staying in hotels, staying and eating at restaurants in town, shopping. So it does. I think it's more of a point of just trying to show these are the dollars that you're losing from whether it, you know, a tourism aspect or however you want to classify it, but it's a significant amount of funds that they could be bringing in.
Yeah. And then you kind of touched on this earlier, but I kind of ended with this. This gets thrown around a lot in public media and national media, that marriage equality is a generational issue. First of all, do you think that that's the case? And second of all, if it is a generational issue, then, and with the way that the tide is kind of turning, what do you expect from the next generation of lawmakers, of whatever, of policymakers?
Sure. Generational, I can kind of see it. We were working the Mosey this last weekend.
Right.
Pride Lafayette sets a booth out. Watching the people walk by, you could always tell the younger, I'll say 35 and younger crowd, 40 and younger crowd, they walk by, they come up, they'll look at it, or they, you know, they keep going. And then you get into maybe some of those late 40s, 50s, early 60s crowd, and that seems to be maybe more of where
there's a divide.
There's a divide. Even when you get into the crowd older than that, you know, we had people stopping, oh, I've got a grandson who's gay. I need that button that says proud grandmother. So it really, I think it is a divide. I think as we see new congressional leaders come in, I think it'll become less of an issue, because I think as they listen to their constituents, you know, hopefully the younger crowd will continue to have a loud voice that it doesn't matter. People love who they love. Let them all have the opportunity to marry. So hopefully we'll see as people change. Hopefully, you know, we'll see younger people want to step into politics and be that voice. And it's not just the same people over and over.
Yeah.